Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know, as we're talking college football on this channel year round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. Want to go ahead and keep our over-under win total pod series going. We've hit on most of the big schools by this point: Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Florida, on and on and on. Yesterday, we started in the ACC with Miami, and today it is the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State, much like Miami, their over-under win total is 9.5. Those are the two highest win totals in the ACC. Yes, it's higher than Clemson, and it's also worth noting, by the way, Florida State is the favorites in the ACC, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, plus 270 to bet Florida State to win the ACC. By the way, the money actually coming in on the under for Florida State to win the ACC, just slight, or the money's coming in, on the under of 9.5. But let's get into Florida State. Now, look, Florida State, obviously, to tell the story of this season, we do have to talk a little bit about last year. I know Florida State fans are ready to move on, but just a quick reminder, because how it ended shouldn't undo the fact that it was just this unbelievable season for Florida State. It opens, they're getting a lot of hype. Is it justified? Is it not? They're playing a team from the mighty SEC, the LSU Tigers. And they smacked them Tigers around. Remember, Jaden Daniels ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. That night, he was held in check as much as at any point in the season. Florida State wins 45-28, maybe something like that. But really, they went on a 28 straight point run from the end of the first half to like the middle of the fourth quarter. LSU tacks on a touchdown late. It doesn't really matter. Florida State dominates. From there, a couple weeks later, they go to Clemson and win. And from that point, it was just full speed ahead, beating everybody in the ACC, dominating everybody in the ACC. And then it kind of takes us to, frankly, an unlikely place, which is, of course, the 11th game of the season, one game before the rivalry week game with the Florida Gators. They're playing North Alabama, and we know what happens from there. Jordan Travis gets hurt. Jordan Travis is out for that game. They win that game. They survive against Florida in the Swamp. They beat them 24-15. And to their credit, it wasn't pretty, but they beat Louisville in the ACC championship game, in a game where the defense really showed just how elite that group was. Unfortunately, it's hard for Florida State fans to celebrate that ACC championship. We know what happened. They got left out of the playoff. We won't relitigate that. I'll tell you what I said at the time. That defense was so good, I think it would have kept them in a game against Michigan. It doesn't matter at this point, but it really is time to look ahead. There's positives, there's negatives to how last year ended. The negatives are speak for themselves. You don't make the playoff. You lose to Georgia in that bowl game. The positives, by the way, is that although you lost a ton of talent, 10 players drafted in the NFL draft, it is worth noting we're entering a 12-team playoff era where the ACC champion will get an automatic bid to the college football playoff. Doesn't matter if you're 9-3, doesn't matter if you're 7-5. If you find a way to that ACC championship game and you win it, you're going to get in the playoff, and you're almost certainly going to get a bye there as well. Now, in terms of the 2024 Florida State Seminoles, it obviously starts at quarterback. Jordan Travis is gone. He was a draft pick himself of the New York Jets. And in comes DJ Uiagalelei from the Oregon State football team. Obviously, we know, by the way, he started his career at Clemson, got replaced by Cade Klubnik. By the way, Cade Klubnik, we're going to talk Clemson tomorrow. Cade Klubnik was not great in his own right. DJU, the positives, the negatives, goes to Oregon State. They win a lot of games, but the numbers don't jump off the page. 57% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And this has been his problem from the beginning. Accuracy and ability to kind of throw the ball with touch. We know he can throw it. He's like Joe Milton. We know he can throw it 70 yards downfield. Can you throw it with touch? There was even reports out of Florida State spring ball about a little bit of a frustration maybe from the coaching staff with his accuracy. But the good news is he's not going to have to do it alone. Talent all across the board. on that offense. Even though you lost a lot, there's still a lot coming back and a lot coming in. Running back position, we know Norvell likes to rotate his guys, and you got yourself some dudes this year. Roydell Williams, transfer from Alabama, comes in 560 yards rushing last year for the Crimson Tide, 5 touchdowns, 11 catches out of the backfield as well. Lawrence Toafili is back, 463 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. And a guy that really kind of popped in the spring, Jalen Lucas, a transfer from Indiana, that powerhouse Indiana. People are sleeping on him. 275 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns, but also 34 catches, 2 touchdowns out of the backfield as well. So he's a receiver. He's a hybrid. He can run the ball. And this staff is excited about the ability to use him with this group coming in. Wide receiver room, they did lose a lot. Keon Coleman, 2nd-round pick. Johnny Wilson's gone. The tight end, Jaheim Bell, is gone. But they do have some interesting pieces back and coming in. Jaquez Douglas, 14 catches, 243 yards a year ago. Hakeem Williams is a former 5-star that everybody wanted in the class of 2023. A little bit of a quiet first year, but I think the staff is excited about him. And then Malik Benson does come in from Alabama as well. 13 catches, 162 yards a season ago. In terms of the offensive line, this is important. Norvell, we know, wants to run the ball. The running game actually took a little bit of a step back last year compared to 2 years ago. But the O-line is actually the one place on the offense where there is a lot of talent returning. On the offensive line, Darius Washington was an all-ACC left tackle a year ago. Jeremiah Byers started all 14 games at right tackle. So you got bookend tackles, 3 starters back, and that should be an area of strength for the Florida State Seminoles. Defensively, positives and negatives. Coming off a year, top 20 defense, top 20 scoring defense. But the counter is you lost a lot. Jared Verse, 1st-round pick of the Rams. Braden Fisk, not first round, but a pick of the Rams. Caden Deloach, star linebacker, is out. A couple of those DBs are out. So who's coming back? On the defensive line, good news. I was going to call him Peyton Pritchard. That's the dude who plays for the Celtics, so I apologize. Patrick Payton, always trip up his name. Not Peyton Pritchard, Patrick Payton. He was a beast last year. And because Jared Verse got so much hype, I don't think people remember just how good this kid was. 14 and a half TFLs, 7 sacks for the Florida State Seminoles last year. He's back. Joshua Farmer is back after recording 7.5 TFLs a season ago. And then some intriguing new pieces as well. Darrell Jackson was the highly touted transfer from Miami last year. Remember the beginning of the year, all 2-time transfers had to sit out. So he starts the year sitting out. They end up changing the rules the middle of the season. Shout out Mac Brown for whining until he got his players eligible. Everybody else gets eligible. So Darrell Jackson's there. And then Marvin Jones Jr. on the edge, coming from Georgia. Everybody knows the name. His father played at Florida State. He's a former 5-star who began his career at the Bulldogs. He's in after recording 4.5 TFLs and 1 sack a season ago. Also had a second-team All-Pac-12 defensive lineman from Oregon State as well. Linebacker group, DJ Lundy, you talk about kind of the current era of college football. This kid's a stud, but unique offseason. Was at Florida State, transfers to Colorado to play for Coach Prime, but has since transferred back to Tallahassee. This is just the world that we live in, people. There's nothing else to really say. Secondary, a lot of interesting pieces. By the way, Amarion Cooper, who played 2 years ago at Florida State, went to Colorado last year. He's back. So a little bit of Norvell's revenge on Coach Prime. Shaheem Brown at 1 safety spot was really good last year. 53 tackles, 2 TFLs, 2 sacks. Fentrell Cypress was a big-time transfer that a lot of people were excited about and was pretty good last year, but I think he's due for an even bigger season. Now, in terms of the schedule, to say the least, the schedule is certainly interesting. There is no super marquee out-of-conference game to open the season like the last 2 years. Remember, last 2 years they opened against LSU. 1 year was in New Orleans. Last year was in Orlando, I believe. This year, though, you open with 2 ACC games that are going to be standalone games. You open against Georgia Tech week 0 in Dublin. And then the following Monday, remember we have that Monday night college football game during Labor Day weekend. Florida State will play Boston College at home. So you should start 2-0. The good news on the schedule, of your first 6, you only have one true road game. That's at SMU. Remember, that is now an ACC game. Outside of the Boston College game, you have a neutral site game against Georgia Tech, as we just mentioned. You also, on top of that, get Mike Norvell's former team, Memphis at home, Cal at home, which is an ACC school. And then you finish the front half of your schedule. Remember, 5 of the first 6 are either neutral or home. That one is against Clemson in Tallahassee. We know that's going to be a big one, and maybe a game that decides a bid for the ACC championship. Now, there's no division, so they could both end up playing again, but that's kind of interesting. Back half of the schedule is interesting. No NC State, which is a good team. No Louisville, which was pretty good last year, but it ain't easy either. Miami on the road. We talked about Miami yesterday. I like Miami. I think they're maybe the most talented roster in the ACC. And then you have to go to Notre Dame as well. So, in terms of the over-under, let me say this. I got to lean under on this. I got to lean under, and I don't love the money that you're getting. If anything, if you believe in this team, rather than betting the over, just take them to win the ACC at plus 210. But I'm going to have to go under for a very simple reason. 9.5 is a lot, and there's a few factors. Like, they lost a lot of talent, okay? 10 guys that got drafted, but they don't have, this isn't Alabama under Saban, Georgia under Kirby Smart. They don't quite have the plug and play down just yet. I don't know that they've had the recruit, and Florida State fans are going to crush me for this, but I'm telling the truth. They don't have the plug and play guys at every single position like a couple other programs do. Think they did really good in the transfer portal. Think they added a bunch of really nice pieces. We mentioned some of them. Amarion Cooper, DJ Lundy went back and forth, a couple different pieces. But I worry about all of the talent that you lost from a season ago. The other thing that stood out to me when I was really kind of knee deep in prep, this team took care of the football about as well as anybody in college football a season ago. Only 10 total turnovers in 13 games. That was 6th fewest in the country. And then on top of that, Jordan Travis threw only 2 interceptions in the 9.5, 10 games that he played. I guess it would have been 10.5 games because he played into week 11. And so you're replacing Jordan Travis, who took as good of care of the ball as anybody in the sport, with DJU. I'm sorry, like, Florida State fans, crush me if you want, but I have lived the DJU experience for 4 years. You guys have too. I'm sure he's a great kid. I'm sure he's trying his best, but he's inconsistent at best, and he's not careful with the football. 7 interceptions in a run-based offense last year at Oregon State. And so I look at DJU, and that concerns me. One of the things that made Florida State stand out, they took care of the football last year. They aren't going to be taking care of the football as well this year. You add in a road game at Miami. You add in a road game at Notre Dame late in the year, going on the road, cold weather. I'm concerned. So my lean is the under. Now, this isn't a best bet. I personally won't be betting it. But if you ask me where I'm leaning, I would have to say under on the Florida State Seminoles of 9.5 wins. All right, I think that's it for this episode of College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. I appreciate everybody's support and everybody's interest in what we do. If you are not subscribed to College Football Betting, please make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure that you are subscribed. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to our College Football Betting YouTube channel. College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. Just search College Football Betting. You will find us there. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you all enough for your support. That's all for today's show. We'll be back next episode, and we'll stay in the ACC. Clemson Tigers. What do we feel about Dabo? First time in over a decade that program did not win 10 games. We're going to discuss Clemson next. Hope everybody